that leads into a good question that kind of calls back to something you said, Jenny. You talked about feminine intelligence, and I wanted you to speak to that. Speak to the men who would say that feminine intelligence looks crazy to the masculine. and yet I know intuitively that there is a feminine intelligence, a wisdom in nature, but from the masculine, and what you were saying, trying to control it, and if I don't control it, isn't it gonna kill me?
The answer is yes.
Yes, we're all gonna die, right?
Eventually, yes. Feminine intelligence, I think, becomes very alien at times because it is a very embodied intelligence. It seems to literally come out of nowhere. So you can't necessarily see the wheels turning, or she's processing something and telling you about it as she goes. And it's not some, she doesn't have maps rolled out and she's pointing out every single way that she's going. It really does kind of spring out of nowhere. Now, sometimes to the feminine, it doesn't feel like it springs out of nowhere because she's feeling it, she doesn't know what it is. She's feeling it, she doesn't know what it is. She's feeling it, she doesn't know what it is. She could be feeling it for months, and then it's like, aha, that's what it is. So to the masculine, it might feel like it came out of nowhere, but to the feminine, she could be kind of carrying this around in her for quite some time. But it's very much, it's not a process-oriented way of being. It's not a mapped, logical way of being, which makes sense to a masculine mind, is to be able to compartmentalize and figure out that we went from step 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. That's not the way that feminine intelligence works. It's literally it's a navigation. You're navigating an energy, and then it comes up, and then you have this recognition of what it is. And and again, sometimes a woman is very adept at putting words on that. Sometimes she's not. But to me, that's feminine intelligence. It comes from the body.
One of the things I like to say is feminine intelligence to me is related to what I call the twilight language. And I love that surreal wording, because the twilight language means that it's in the dark. It's kind of in the dark, but there's light in the dark because there's twilight. And it doesn't make a lot of sense, but there is something that's there. There is something of substance that is there. And I know it's very difficult for men to understand, and in truth, it's even difficult for women to understand when they are very strongly in their masculine, because it sort of blurts out, it just sort of explodes out of them, because if they have a feminine sexual essence, it's going to rise up every once in a while. And yet at the same time, the more a woman does the work on herself, the more she's going to trust that feminine knowing. And she goes, you're just going to have to trust me on this. I don't know why, I can't explain it, but I need you to do it like this. And I remember many years ago that my husband came home and he put the car out by the street, and he came in the door, and I felt something. It took like 20 minutes, and I said, you need to move the car into the driveway. And he said, okay, because he's learned to just trust my feminine knowingness. And so he pulled the car in, and it took about 5 more minutes, and he said, by the way, why did I pull the car in? I said, I don't know. I said, I feel like there's something going to happen on the street. I just don't know. And sure enough, that night, some kids went past with baseball bats and eggs and egged and broke windows on all the cars on the street. But again, I didn't know what that was. I had a feeling. It was this feeling, like she says, it's in my body. My body goes, something's not right. You need to move the car. I don't know why. And I think that's difficult for men to understand, especially when a woman is not as confident as, say, I am, or not as practiced as Jennie in being firm about it. So it's sort of like, it'll sound like some crazy thing, like, oh, she just wants me to do that because she's trying to control me. And that's usually not the case, but most women don't even know why, which is why to us the elemental feminine is so essential, because until you release all this garbage that you're holding in your body, and you create movement, and you create space, and you trust the feminine to move through you, you can't communicate that knowingness in a clear way to your man.